Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is Electric Cafe Recommends New Music, episode number 2. In this video I'll be talking a lot about some really strong techno releases that are coming out in the near future. There's also some releases in Synth Pop and New Wave and Coldwave, indie rock, as well as some in EBM, and also electro, world music, deep house, and IDM, as well as dub techno and a couple in some vintage dub as well, and also Balaeric, and even a little bit in disco. And then lastly, at the end, I'll touch on very quickly on a lot of the great reissues that are coming out that I've heard about in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you'll be along for the ride and check out a lot of great music that's coming out. I'll play some samples of some random records here and there of the ones I'm talking about, and then I'll run through the reissues fairly quickly since they've been issued before, but definitely exciting to get a fresh new copy if you have one, or an inexpensive copy if you're looking for one, and secondhand copies are too expensive, which happens a lot these days. But yeah, this is episode number 2 of Electronic Cafe. Let's get into it. So the first release I'd like to talk about is NUOVO TESTAMENTO and their single called Trouble, which has 5 tracks on it. They're a Los Angeles-based trio, and they do a great job of blending synth pop and sort of Italo house and Italo disco, and maybe even a little bit of freestyle music in there. There's a touch of darkness in there as well, definitely probably influenced by EBM, or maybe even a touch of darker synth pop and new wave. And I first got wind of the artist, the singer, Chelsea Crowley, last year for her appearance on the Contravoid CD track called Losing Game, which I was really excited about when I heard it. I can't remember the last time that I heard such a interesting blend of freestyle into a lot of new music. If you guys are a fan of like early 80s freestyle music, then I think you'll really like NUOVO TESTAMENTO. And also, you know, Chelsea Crowley as a singer, she just has that kind of vibe of mixing synth pop and really kind of freestyle and Italo disco, and just a really exciting blend. And we'll get a chance to check out a few samples of her track. And if you like what you hear, check out the link below for more.
Won't need money, we'll make it through. I can keep us warm if I'm next to you. Loveless honey, no they won't turn blue. Beg you give me a chance to show it too. Your lips, your eyes, your voice, you walk. I must be dreaming again. Your kiss, your arms, your touch, your talk is all that I need. Your lips, your eyes, your voice, you walk. I must be dreaming again. Your kiss, your arms, your touch is all I need. Hold me through the night. Kiss me and I'll kiss you right. I'm yours until you are mine. Everything you need is in my love. When two hearts meet as one, too hard to fight. When everything is wrong, only tonight. I only come alive when two hearts meet as one. Too hard to fight in this night. When your love is mine, loved you all my life. Strip apart, stand up, my back. Dance for a heart attack. Think there's no looking back. White lights can be a bleaching thing. Can anyone hear me? I guess it was fleeting. What does it mean if I'm like everybody else? I have to save myself like everybody else. What does it mean if I'm like everybody else? I have to save myself like everybody else. I thought I was home so long, so long. And when the lights go, dream on, dream on.
One release I'm a few weeks late on is the new Lebanon HANOVER record, their 7th album called Asylum, Lullabies. As you can see, I'm surrounded by some of Lebanon Hanover's albums. I've been listening to a lot this week in hopes of their new album arriving soon. It came out on July 9th, and I just got wind of it last week, and really excited to hear their new album. Really love their style of synth pop and just the darker edges that they have. I've been a big fan since they came out, probably around 2012 or 2013, and really excited to hear their new album, their 7th album already. And if you're curious, here's a few samples of the album.
Seems like I did therapy, although I'm still on the waiting list. Instantly cured, I almost believe someone down the rusty leaves was listening. Go to work and I to bed. I won't spend any money on the net. All my addictions, obsessions, and tendencies, they all vanish when I sleep. No more shame and no more pain. Being up to me just feels so very rare. And I wonder, have I ever been awake?
Also, very quickly, I wanted to highlight and mention the new EP coming out from Years of Denial called Love Cuts. Recently, I reviewed their album Suicide Disco. Just a couple weeks on my channel. I'm a big fan of theirs. Just really dark EBM style and blend of synth pop and a really good techno edge. And the great thing about this EP that's coming out, which I heard the samples for September 9th, but unfortunately I couldn't get any samples to show you here on the video because they're unreleased, but I did get a chance to review it for Juno.com online last week, and really excited in what I heard, right along the same lines of what they've been doing. And the great thing about this new EP coming out September 9th called Love Cuts is the precursor to Suicide Disco Volume Number 3, which will be their new EP, which is coming out in the 4th quarter of 2025. So unfortunately I don't have any samples, but definitely look forward to checking out Years of Denial. And below you'll see the link for... So some of you may have known that Propaganda had a comeback album called Encounters recently, and really happy to see them releasing music again and come back. And coming September 19th, there's actually going to be a remix album with a lot of great remixers remixing tracks from the project. It's called Remix Encounters. On the album, remixes from Reese Fulber, who's from Frontline Assembly, Delirium, Synesthesia, etc. Also, Tangerine Dream has a remix. The fantastic Jimmy Tenor, Moby, Yuri Hulkinen, Schiller as well, and also Pyrolator as well. Unfortunately, there's only one released right now, but you can check the sample down below if you check the link and check Reese Fulber's version, which is highlighted right now, is one you can actually check out and listen to. But this is definitely going to be an exciting project and a lot of great remixers on September 19th it comes out. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about the new CHAMELEONS album called Arctic Moon. First album in 24 years, really exciting, and I can't wait to check it out. It's a 7-track album. They're coming up on tour in September to support the album as well, starting a date in Manchester in September, and then a West Coast tour of America, Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, a couple places. And then they return back to Europe and go to Poland, and then quite a few dates in UK, and then wrapping up with a few dates in France. So really excited to hear a new Chameleons album, Arctic Moon. Just it's been a long time coming, and I'm sure it's going to be a really great album. First in 24 years, Chameleons Arctic Moon. So check out that, and also pre-sale is down below in the links as well. So moving on to a little bit of dub techno. Excited to hear about the new compilation coming out from Grad, owner of Grayscale and Redscale Records. The CD is called Echoes of Chords, and what it does is it collects the 2 EPs that were vinyl only, and also a track he did off a 20th anniversary compilation of the label just a few years ago. Puts them all on CD for the first time. And if you're interested or you want to check more samples, check the link down below. Or if you'd like to support the artist more, that'd be great too. But yeah, let's check out a couple samples of that right now. Also coming is the new album from JS ZEITER called Context Collapse. It's not too often JS ZEITER comes out with a full-length album. I believe this is only be his second or third album. I know there was a first one, but I think the second one was more of a collection of compilations. But he doesn't put out an album too often, so he's been doing music for about 30 years, and his JS series is nearly world-renowned in the dub techno circles. Fantastic producer of the highest quality and just a great techno producer. So also in support of the album is the EP called Context Collapse, which features a few remixes of the title track from the album. It includes remixes from Deep Chord and Rod Modell, also Mike Schommer from Deep Chord as well, and then also Dean Decosta. So it looks like a fantastic remix package to support JS ZEITER on his full-length album. So definitely a lot of hype around that release, and I'm sure, knowing JS ZEITER's work, it should deliver pretty strongly. One of my favorite dub techno producers of all time. Just a high-quality producer with some fantastic music, and building up quite a catalog since coming back, and being a consistent producer as far as putting out releases a little bit over 10 years ago. Also really excited to hear the new album announced by Ocean Moon called Shimmering States. Ocean Moon also, for many that don't know, his real name is John Tai. And John Tai comes from the old days back in the early 90s. Used to release music under Rising High Records as MLO. And then also has run the label called Low Recordings over the last almost 30 years in business. And Ocean Moon also records under Seahawks, if you know Seahawks. But Ocean Moon and Seahawks, just fantastic kind of Balaeric ambient, and also a little bit of ambient house, and just fantastic scenic ambient music. I can't recommend Ocean Moon enough, and Shimmering States I'm sure will be a fantastic release, and really excited to get that myself when it comes out. Look for that soon. If you want to check out some samples of it, link down below. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any samples to actually to use for this video yet because they're unreleased, but Check out the link below. You'll be as excited as I am. So just out last week was a compilation called Ocean of Remixes by the California artist named Earthtones. I really like what I'm hearing with this artist. This particular album is a collection of remixes that he's done for his album previously released called Ocean of Beauty, which I believe was released late last year or earlier this year. But this artist does a fantastic job of mixing ambient with a little bit of folk music and a lot of great natural instruments, as well as unique blendings of like flute and things like that with ambient. But also he mixes everything from cumbia music to hip hop and dub and all different sorts of styles mixed together. If you want to check out a really exciting producer that's pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits on blending genres, definitely check out Earthtones. And you'll check out a couple samples here, but definitely check out the link below for more. Also out last week is the Aerobic EP by the artist named Shiva, and these are the Jura Soundsystem versions. Back in 1983, there was an aerobics EP that really inspired a lot of people involved in this project into making some new versions of it. And so back in 2023, they collected and reissued a few of those tracks and also made alternate versions. And these particular 4 versions were made during those sessions in 2023 and now released by their own. And it's a really exciting and unique project, being inspired by an aerobics EP of all. And you know, that's just kind of the time of the late 80s and everything. I mean, the early 80s, and things being inspired by disco and all went all the way into aerobics music, of course, if you remember things like Jane Fonda and stuff like that, and Let's Get Physical. But here's a rare aerobics EP that has now inspired a reissue and some really cool disco versions almost over 40 years later. Pretty cool. So let's check out a sample of Aerobic EP by Shiva.
Oh yeah. Well, it really doesn't matter. I don't want to hang around you anymore. Oh, oh, oh. Don't be sad all the time. Every day gonna make it one more way. Yeah, you could be my only kiss. All the years I can take it every day. You could be my only time. Every day gonna make it one more way. Yeah, you could
Also out this week is North, South, East, and West, and their track called Anxiety. So this was a rare 7-inch in the form of like funk and soul and psychedelic, a little bit of disco in there. It was a rare 7-inch only release back in 1975 from a small French label. And just recently this was reissued 50 years later. And also on the B-side is a really cool edit of it as well, just to add another unique version to the 7-inch. And when I got a chance, when I ran by this, I couldn't help but be intrigued not only from the entire history of the project, but also the sounds. Just a very interesting and unique kind of take on psychedelic disco. So moving on to a little bit of deep house, the very excellent Vibraphone Records has a new EP out, and it's called Unreleased Chronicles, and it's by Minimal Vision. Minimal Vision's been doing music since the early 90s, and this particular EP, when the gentlemen from Minimal Vision were moving house, discovered an old Atari with some unreleased tracks on it, and here they see the light of day for the first time in over 30 years. And if you're a big fan of Vibraphone Records like I am, pretty much everything they do is a blind pickup, so I have no doubt these will be great as well. If you're interested in checking out more from Minimal Vision, I have a link down below, and also this EP as well. If you're into ambient house and Balearic house and great deep house from Europe, also in deep house category, coming out September 25th, it looks like, is the new LOXODROME EP. This is the third EP that Jamie Odell from LOXODROME has used under that name. First EP back in 1994 just got rave reviews and became a cult classic, and then recently in I think it was 2020 got reissued. And Jamie Odell's decided to put out more music under that name, and last year, 2024, the Dropout EP came out, and this one's even better, I think, than even those two, in my opinion. It's called the More Alive EP. And of course, Jamie Odell is mostly known for recording under the name Jimster, and also being owner and running Free Range Records as well. Just a really strong deep house producer. One of the best labels out there for deep house, in my opinion. Free Range label, just fantastic stuff. And this is a really strong EP. You got to check out the samples of this. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any samples to share with you, but definitely check out the link below. And you'll actually see my review on the link below. I happen to review it for Juno Records. So check out the link down below and check out some samples. Really cool release. Also, very quickly, I want to mention the Semi-Delicious compilation that's out. There's 10 tracks on there, including Subban, who I'm a big fan of. A lot of great house and techno on this label, and I'll play a couple samples for you here. But look down at my links if you'd like to check out more of this compilation. On to a few recommendations in dub. Adrian Sherwood's new album coming out called The Collapse of Everything. Of course, Adrian Sherwood, known for being part of Dub Syndicate and also owner of On You Records. This album features Brian Eno, so you know this is going to be a must listen to. Adrian Sherwood, Brian Eno. What a pair that is on the same album. That's also a reissue of Negrea Love Dub, which is Linval Thompson's 1976 album that was featured on Trojan Records. It features Sly Dunbar from Sly and Robbie on drums. One of Linval's earliest records. I think it was his third record, if I'm not mistaken, or second. But originally came in 1978. And if you're interested in the history of dub and roots rock and stuff like that, you're gonna want to check out this reissue of Negrea Love Dub. Also, there's a really exciting compilation from Lee Scratch Perry coming out called The Crucial Cuts from the Heart of the Ark, which collects music recorded in the Ark from 1973 to 1978. Features the Heptones, the Upsetters, and also a few other key tracks, and also some rare ones. So if you're a big Lee Scratch Perry, if you're a big Heptones or Upsetters fans, or any fan of the history of dub music, you're going to want to check out this new compilation by Lee Scratch Perry. It's CD only, just so you know, but there's a link down below if you'd like to check any of those dub records out and check out more from them. So I'm always interested in hearing unique electronic music from any culture or any country that's doing it. And one compilation that I ran across recently that had me very excited was Naya Beats Volume 1 and 2. It looks like these compilations are from India, as far as I know. When I listen to a lot of the tracks, they sound from artists from India, but I'm not 100% on that. But if you're looking for some very unique electronic music and tribal music and dance music, definitely check out these compilations. There's some links down below. Here's a sample of one that I thought was really creative and interesting. It's a remix of a well-known track by none other than Michael Jackson. So moving on to a little bit of IDM, Kettle has a new EP out called Inmate Shuffle. This came out at the end of June. I probably should have featured it on last video, but I didn't actually know about this till a little bit after the video. But it's always great to hear and see Kettle putting out new music. Of course, Kettle is Reimer Ising, owner of Sending Orbs Records as well. Strangely enough, just a side story, back about 20 years ago, I sold the CD to Reimer's brother, Wouter, and just turned out to be a really nice guy. And then such a strange coincidence that, I got a chance to, he mentioned that his brother was starting the Sending Orbs label, and I just became a huge fan of that label and also of Kettle over the last 20 years. And just recently I got a chance to message Kettle and tell him congratulations on his new EP. But, we're going to check out a few samples of here, some fantastic IDM. Always does a great job of doing some melancholy melodies over some skittering IDM beats, and always really a classy artist, and one who's really carrying on the IDM tradition. So now we're going to move on to some of my recommendations for this video in the genre of techno. I've been a long-time fan of techno for almost 40 years now, and the genre has gone through some ups and downs, and certainly like in 2008, 2009, there wasn't a lot of artists making techno, and then the resurgence happened in 2010, 2011, and then all of a sudden, the last 5 to 7 years, there's been so many new artists making techno. And that happens sometimes when a certain genre becomes really popular. You have a lot of people making that particular style of music. And I can think of no other genre than techno that you really need to dig if you're a fan of the genre and find the better kind of techno. There's a lot of imitation techno out there, and a lot of ones lacking soul, originality, ones lacking aggression and edge. Just a lot of very boring techno out there that's, in my opinion, made for the festival main stage and kind of the pretenders out there. And nothing's really challenging about the music, and nothing's really timeless about the music. It's just a lot of stuff to go through, and everybody has their own opinions of what's good and what they like in certain genres and things like that. And I'm happy to recommend some good techno in this particular video. Quite a few are from friends of mine and also acquaintances of mine, and so I'm happy to support them as well. But I'm not putting them on this video just because they're friends or acquaintances. I'm putting them on there because they're friends and acquaintances, because I like their style of music, and we've become friends through our friendship in underground techno. And the history of music that we both enjoy. And so I'm happy to say, unlike the last video where I just had a couple recommendations, there's quite a few to recommend in this video. So my first recommendation in techno comes from an artist that I am a huge fan of, one of my favorite Japanese producers, Shinichi and Toby, and his new EP called The Whispers Into the Void. Let's check out a couple samples of it. If you like what you hear, check out the links down below and support the artist. Also coming out is the Electronically Minded Part 2. This is a collaboration between father and son duo, Cisco Ferreira and also his son, Zain Ferreira. The Advent, also Cisco, an alias that he used, just a legendary techno producer for almost 40 years now. And this one comes out on Cultivated Electronics, one of the best electro labels in the past 15 years, Cultivated Electronics. Check out the link below, and here's a couple samples. Out this week is the 14th record by Ohm Records. Ohm Records is owned and operated by the artist named Ohm, and also he goes by his real name, Bernard Johnson. And this is a 4-track EP of great techno. Includes tracks by Blue Train, also Fletcher, Rye Scott, and also Anthony Patrice. We'll hear a couple samples here, but if you like what you hear, check out the samples below if you'd like to order a copy. Also out is the new Hypnos record. Hypnos record is a very popular and great sounding techno label from Sweden. The new release is by Feral, and the album's called The Look Within. Check out a couple samples here. Definitely some strong techno. If you like what you hear, definitely check the links below. Also coming out is the new EP on X/OZ Records by Wage, and it features Cold and one of my favorite Icelandic producers of all time, Exos. This will be coming out, I believe, next month, and always great techno coming out on X/OZ Records. I don't necessarily have any samples, but just trust me, check out the links down below if you want to hear some really cool techno from Iceland. Also coming out is the EP named School Bus Field Trip by an artist named DJ Baldwin. Don't know too much about DJ Baldwin. It was a release that I came across that I was reviewing for Juno Records, and really liked what I hear, so I wanted to share it on this channel this week in this episode, and really enjoyed some of the music on here. And let's check out some samples of it. Also in the techno genre is the Hieroglyphic Being, his new album called The Sound of Something. Hieroglyphic Being, aka Jamal Moss, one of the busiest techno producers in the industry, consistently releasing. This guy releases so much music, and so much of it is quality stuff. And definitely check out his new album. I don't have samples with it. Also, we're checking out his New Era, his new EP called Electric Illusion on Omniverse Records, which he returns to for this EP. Those are two excellent records worth checking out. Links are below. Also coming out is Timeless Shades by Roberto Bosco. Big fan of Roberto. Does some great techno, dub techno, ambient, and also different styles of electronica. Such an excellent producer. Let's check out a few samples of his latest, Timeless Shades. Also coming out is Mihail Pedrovsky's new EP called Millennium. Mihail's been on some really strong EPs already in his 6 or 7 years releasing music. He's been on Russ Gabriel's Ferox records. He's been on Seven Sign records. He's been on Andy Green's Verdant records. He's been on Magnetic Signals. He's also been on Distant Worlds. He's just been on a lot of great labels, and because they all recognize his talent as an ambient techno producer. Just some fantastic music. If you're into music in the lineage of ambient techno like B12 Records and Future Beat Alliance and Stasis and As One, you'll certainly really like Mihail's music. Excellent timeless ambient techno. Let's check out some samples from it. electro genre, I have one recommendation for this episode, and it's by the amazing Plant 43 and his new album called Feeding the Machines. Plant 43 is probably one of my top 5, if not top 10 electro producers of all time. Ever since I first got wind of him in roughly 2005, 2006, back on AI Records, I've just followed him ever since, and he does such an exciting futuristic style of electro, and just some great stuff. Let's check out a few samples from it. There's a lot of great reissues coming out in the next 6 to 7 weeks. These first handful, I'd like to play a little bit of the audio sample of them because they're either 12 inches or they're 12-inch singles or they're tracks that are being reissued individually and not necessarily albums. And then later on I'll touch on and mention quickly through the albums. So the first record I'd like to touch on is Corrado and their reissue of Tribal Activity. This is a track from back in 1992. A very underground but very well known if you know early progressive house back in 1992, and really excited to see this reissued once again. It was always kind of an underground classic and a favorite of mine from back in the day. Let's check out a sample of Tribal Activity by Corrado. Also being reissued is Trust in Six and their 1991 track Life in Ecstasy. This was a great balance of EBM at the time and techno and a blend with early trance. And this is being reissued once again nearly 34 years later. Let's check out some samples from that one. So this is the reissue of a track way back from 1991 when I was 15 or 16. I think I first heard this. And it's Techno La Droga by Negrosex. And this was a great track for the time. And so it was perfectly harnessed the early trance sound and the new beat sound and the industrial and EBM sort of influence in tracks like this. And just powerful rave music at the time. And you know, an underground classic, and still fairly, you know, not really well known, but I've always really enjoyed this track. And, you know, if I did a all-time rave or new beat, you know, list, this would certainly be on the best of. Also being reissued for its 25th anniversary is the track Scorchio by Sasha and Darren Emerson. Of course, Darren Emerson was from Underworld, and also Sasha, the legendary DJ. This was right after Darren Emerson left Underworld and took more time to focus on his DJing and his remixing. And this was a collaboration, came out, and it was featured on so many mixes back in those days, and still a track that has a lot of good memories and still works well today. And when you hear those chords play and the melody plays, I think pretty much anybody who was clubbing back in 2000 would know this track from just a couple notes. It's just a very memorable track, and still works today and still brings back a lot of memories. I'm also really excited to hear that New Scenes Waves is being reissued on vinyl. I picked this up probably about 20-25 years ago, and it's always been one of my favorite new beat records. It's originally from 1990, and you know, it's just one of those, it's not too often that you find a solid album all the way through of new beat music. sometimes you'll get a few good tracks here and there on a single, but to make a full album with quality music is really hard to come by, for a lesser known producer like this. And this is always like a standout of the new beat period, and one that I will probably get when I do get around to getting a copy on vinyl. But I still enjoy the CD, and it's great to see an album like this get reissued and get shared with a whole new generation again. There's also a handful of albums that I'd like to mention that are getting reissued coming up in the next couple weeks. Just some exciting reissues. If you guys remember on my channel, maybe a month or two ago, I reviewed and mentioned that both Sabres of Paradise albums were getting reissued. Haunted Dance Hall and also Saber Sonic. So those are getting reissued. So check the links below if you'd like to check out more for those, or if you'd like to order one. Also, Moody Man's coming out with Black Mahogany 1 and 2. These were very desirable on vinyl, and I have both on CD. Used copies. I never got around to getting them on vinyl, but Ken Dixon Jr. Is just a beloved deep house producer, and a lot of times his vinyl goes for quite a bit of money on in secondhand stores. So it's nice to see him going to reissue the first and the second Black Mahogany. So also getting reissued is She Hangs Brightly by Mazzy Star, as well as Among My Swan, another great Mazzy Star record. If you don't have these original copies, or you don't have the first time they get reissued, no fear. Quantities are coming back and they're getting reissued once again. So definitely Google online or check the link below if you'd like to order one, or order one from your favorite retailer. Also very excited to see Pure Science reissue some of their earlier work. The Sunset EP is getting reissued. Pure Science were a terrific tribal techno and house artist from the middle to late 90s. Just did so many underrated EPs that got passed over and not really recognized as much as they should have in the late 90s and early 2000s. They have so many fantastic EPs, and a lot of them are very rare. And it's great to see one of theirs get reissued, and hopefully this is the beginning of many more by Pure Science getting reissued once again. Also, Bandaloo and their debut album called Guidance is getting reissued also, which is fantastic. Excellent techno on there. Also worth mentioning is both electronic albums are getting reissued once again. Raise the Pressure and also Twisted Tenderness, their second and their third album. These were during very lean years of making vinyl, 1996 and 2000, so these secondhand copies go for a lot of money, so it's great to see electronic reissue these, get these for a good price. Some excellent techno, excellent indie rock, and synth pop on both of these records. Excellent, very underrated. If you're a New Order fan, you should always have the electronic albums for sure. Also getting reissued by R&S is Joey Beltram's Classics from 1995. Originally, this was a compilation that featured and collected a lot of his early releases from roughly 1990 through 1994, including his iconic Energy Flash, also Mentasm, Subsonic Trance, My Sound, also the elusive Joey's Riot in here as well. Just a lot of great tracks on here, and if you want any introductory for the history of techno and the history of rave music, you can't find much better on one compilation than Joey Beltram's Classics. Just chock full of legendary tracks by one of the most underrated, still, strangely enough, techno producers of all time, Joey Beltram. Also worth noting, Crane's debut album called Fuse is getting reissued, so there's more copies of that getting reissued to meet the demand. Also, the Sundays' fourth album called Static is getting reissued. This one originally came out in 1997 and often gets overlooked when people talk about Sundays' catalog. And it shouldn't be like that, because the album is very worthy, and it's a nice bittersweet ending to a 4-album run that still lends itself to the iconic status of the Sundays. There's also more reissues coming from the iconic UK electronic duo Autek. 2007, Untitled is getting reissued once again, so that's exciting news. And also their 2009 album called Quartice is getting reissued. So definitely look for those albums in your at your local retailer. Also getting reissued is the iconic techno track from 1990 called Circuit by the artist Real by Real. This was the first reissue back in 2010 on Artless Records, and the new version looks like it's there's some remixes of it, and with the new reissue, so that's exciting news. Such an iconic Detroit techno track, and one that often gets overlooked, but if you're heavy into Detroit techno, I think everybody should know this track. Also getting reissued is Loud at Dawn by the electro artist 214. This came out roughly in about 2014, and it was one of my favorite electro tracks. And sadly, I sold it a couple months ago. It was original green translucent copy, and now the new version is getting reissued. It's on gray vinyl, but I'm really happy it's getting reissued, because I'm really regretting selling it, and I would love another copy. Very cool electro track. It's got a couple bangers on it for sure. But yeah, let's check out a sample of that. So also worth mentioning is a retrospect dedicated to Carl Craig, and it's called Desire, the Carl Craig story. Included are about 10 tracks. I have roughly about 6 of them right here just on other releases. First off is his iconic ambient track called Atlas from more songs about food and revolutionary art. So that track is on there. Also from his 69 full length and single is the track called Desire, which is the name of the compilation. Also his track Galaxy from the BFC moniker, one of his early techno track is featured there. Also a remix of Junior Boy's Like a Child is also featured there. And then a few of his more jazzier tracks. Bug in the Basement from Inner Zone Orchestra is featured on that anthology. And then also Designer Music and the track called The Truth. So those are just a handful of tracks that are listed on that. But it's a nice retrospect and not too in depth, but it's a nice overview of his career. And if you're getting into Carl Craig's music, that'd be a good place to start. For me personally, Japanese ambient and techno was like the last stone to unturn and learning about a lot of the history of ambient and techno music. Like through the late 80s and early 90s and then 2000s, I made it a point to understand and try to track and know as much about the history of techno in every country that I could. One of the last places that was the most hardest to uncover was the history of ambient and techno within Japanese music. Because it wasn't necessarily released, not a lot of these artists had very good distribution in Europe, let alone here in America. And so it wasn't until like the late 90s and early 2000s that I started to discover a lot of the great artists that produced ambient and ambient techno from Japan, including DJ YT and Tetsuo Uno and DJ Shufflemaster, of course Ken Ishii, Fumiya Tanaka, just a handful of my favorite Japanese producers of all time. Also Ambient 7 in there as well. But Susumu Yokota, just one of the best all time and such a fantastic producer. He recorded under Prism, he recorded under Ebi, was a couple other names he recorded under. And this particular box set is a fantastic looking and put together box set. I think there's a poster in here and some other really special, unique things to make the box set really special. It's there's 14 vinyl in the box set, the vinyl box set, which goes over about, I think it's 7 or 9 ambient techno albums from his career, mostly from the late 90s, middle 90s through the later 2000s roughly. I think it's 7 or 9 full albums, and it came on 14 vinyl, so that's 14 vinyl in the box set. Comes around about $250, probably $300 with shipping, so it's a little bit on the pricey side, but probably one of the most rewarding box sets. If you like ambient or ambient techno, it's almost like a must get, especially if you don't know him, or if you do know him and you want to get these on vinyl for the first time. That's also very special. They also come on a 9 box set CD set, which comes around $70, which is probably the one I'll get just because I'm not overly anxious on getting them on vinyl. But if you don't want to get this box set and you like what you hear, and there's individual albums that you want to get, if you start digging deep and there's specific ones you want, the label is going to release these individually in 2026. I believe on CD and vinyl, so look forward to that. And then also there's going to be another volume 2, another box set coming to highlight even more of his amazing career. A very busy career that he had, obviously putting out 2 extraordinary in-depth box sets isn't even probably half of the music he did because he was pretty busy through his time. And again, sadly, he passed away in 2015, but just one of my favorite Japanese producers, and an amazing job they did on a box set. Just a great looking box set, and I can't wait to see a friend that has one or get my CD set in the mail. Just can't wait to hear it. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in to episode number 2 of Electronic Cafe Recommends. Hopefully in this video you heard some great new music, old and new, that you'd like to check out more from. Again, there's links down below in the notes section, whether it be their Bandcamp page or where you can purchase the album or hear more. Definitely support these artists if you like what you hear. It's always good to give these artists the love that they deserve. And it's great featuring them on my channel, and I really appreciate your time and checking out the channel. And we'll see you on the next video.
Electric Cafe.